Hi everyone, it's Tatyana from Tatyana's Everyday Food, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my chocolate crepe cake filled with mascarpone cream and raspberries, and I absolutely love crepe cakes. They take a little while to make since you have to make like 40 crepes, but once you put it together and you just put your fork through that cake slice and you have those layers of crepes and cream, and it's just so delicious. It's definitely worth your time to make this cake, and it's perfect around the holiday season. You can make it for your dinner get together or any time of the year really, for a birthday or a special occasion, even Valentine's Day. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. And now for making our crepes. So the most important thing about making these is to make sure all your liquid ingredients are at room temperature, and that way your batter is going to be clump free. So we're going to be adding 2/3 cup of butter, 12 large eggs, and I took these out the night before. Just let them sit on your counter. They'll be perfectly okay. Make sure you're not using cold eggs. I have 4 cups of milk, and I'm using 2%. You can use whole milk, whatever you have will be fine. I have 1 cup of water, and we're going to be adding just a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So we're going to need a large bowl. I'm going to add in my eggs, add in my water, my 4 cups of milk. And then today I'm going to be whisking these by hand. You don't want to overbeat your batter. You want to mix the eggs, the milk, and the water until you have a smooth mixture. Just make sure you break up all the egg yolks and the egg whites in there. Next, I'm going to add my melted butter. And make sure you have this cooled so it's not too hot. And I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This is going to add a little bit of flavor to our crepes. And give this a whisk. And now we're ready to add our sugar. So I have 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of white granulated sugar. Just sprinkle it on top and whisk that in as well. And now for our dry ingredients, we're going to start by adding 2½ cups of all-purpose flour and 2/3 cup of dark chocolate cocoa powder. So I start out with 2½ cups of flour, and then I add a little bit more as needed to adjust if my batter is too thin. So for adding our dry ingredients, I actually sift everything in to make sure I don't have any clumps. Just pour everything into a fine mesh strainer and sift a little bit at a time. And you want to make sure you whisk in all that flour before you add a little bit more. This way you're not going to have any clumps. You want to keep whisking your batter until it's completely smooth. You don't have any clumps remaining. Once it's reached that consistency, just let it stand for about 10 minutes so all the air bubbles can dissipate. Meanwhile, we're going to heat up our pan. So for this recipe, I'm going to be using a 9-inch non-stick pan, and I'm heating it over medium heat. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil non-stick spray just to ensure that it really doesn't stick to the pan. So I'm going to let this heat up, and we want it to be really hot before we start adding our crepe batter. Once our pan is hot, we could start adding our crepe batter. So I add 1/4 cup of the crepe batter at a time. Just pour it into the center, and then just quickly just tilt your pan around like this, and it's going to spread the crepe batter evenly so you have a nice and even crepe. And these cook fairly quickly, so it's going to be about a minute on one side, and then we're going to flip it over and cook it about 30 seconds on the other side. When the top of your crepe loses its gloss, it's ready to be flipped over. So just take a rubber spatula and just run it along the side from one side. Insert your spatula underneath. We're going to flip it over and cook for about 30 more seconds on this side. As your crepes finish, just stack them onto a plate, and we're going to let them cool completely here. We need to let our crepes cool completely before we assemble the cake. So I've split them into stacks of 3, you can even split them into stacks of 4, and that way they'll cool a lot quicker. So for our raspberry sauce, we're going to need 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar. Just put it into a bowl, and we're going to add 2 cups of fresh raspberries. You can also use frozen ones, just make sure you thaw them out beforehand. Next, I'm going to take a potato masher, or you could use like the back of a large spoon and just crush those raspberries until you have a nice sauce. You want to break up all the whole raspberries. Just crush everything together. For our cream, we're going to be using 2 cups of whipping cream. I'm going to pour them into my mixer bowl. And then to this, I'm going to add 1 cup of powdered sugar. And I've sifted the powdered sugar so I don't have any clumps. I'm just going to pour that in as well. And I'm going to whisk this on high speed for a couple minutes until stiff peaks form in the whipping cream. I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract to my cream just to add a little bit of flavor. To my cream, I'm going to be adding 8 ounces of softened mascarpone cheese. But if you're in a pinch, you can substitute the mascarpone with cream cheese. I'm just going to add that in there and then whisk it in at low speed until it's well combined. Next to our cream, I'm going to add our raspberry sauce. Just pour it in. Just fold in the raspberry sauce very gently and make sure that you don't overmix it. And now for assembling our cake. So today I'm arranging it on a cake platter, and for each crepe I'm going to top it with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of filling. Just use a flat spatula and just spread it all the way to the edges. Just spread it evenly. And we're going to repeat the same thing for all of our crepes. So this recipe yields about 30 to 35 crepes. And you want to do the exact same thing for all the layers. And our last layer of filling. So now I'm going to place this cake into the refrigerator, and it needs to set overnight in at least like 12 hours so that filling can set inside before you slice it open. Just spread it evenly, top it with the last layer, and then we'll come back tomorrow to try it and cut it open. And now it's time to give our cake a try. So I'm going to get a little bit of the crepes with some of the fresh raspberries. And if you want your cake to be a little bit sweeter, you can add a simple raspberry sauce over the top. Just combine 2 cups of fresh raspberries with about half a cup of sugar and just mash those together. And then you can pour a little bit over that, over each slice. So time to give this a try. The fresh raspberries really complement this cake. It's not overly sweet, and you get all that chocolatey goodness from the crepes and then that sweet mascarpone cream. Such a perfect combination. I hope you guys enjoyed this video recipe. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, share with your family and friends, and then follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. This is really good.